Speaker, we are 76 at the moment, but other councillors are still trying to join.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think we've given all political parties an opportunity to confirm their numbers. As soon as there are changes in terms of the attendance from your political parties, please inform us so that we update those numbers here. Thank you.
Hi, Speaker.
Madam Speaker, it's Councillor Kupera here.
Councillor Pera, you don't just talk, you raise your hand first, then you are recognized by the Speaker, then you can only address council after you've been recognized by the Speaker. There's a hand from Councillor Mkize, the whip of DA. Councillor Mkize.
Thank you, Speaker. Now, DA, we are 53.
There's improvement of numbers, 53 DA. Any other hand there? Councillor Pega.
Speaker, firstly, please, I will request that you be fair, because Councillor Madlala did the same, and you did not question him regarding him speaking without raising the hand. But I'm not the Speaker. May I request that the Secretariat, the team of Secretariat to assist us?
Listen, we cannot just allow you to make wrong accusation. Councillor Madlala earlier, when they were called to confirm their numbers, requested that we deal with all other political parties. Then we must come back to them at the end of the process. I was calling his name because already he made a request to the Speaker for them to be given a chance later. Therefore, you are wrong. Proceed with your point.
Apologies, Speaker. Speaker, may I request the Secretary to assist us to open the mic for our caucus leader, Babu Mngango, and our whip as well, and close mine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillors' numbers have been confirmed by Councillor Shahid. Your hand is up.
Thank you, Speaker. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think just double check PFP because he should be out the country.
PFP? No, but they've confirmed their numbers here. Even if they are outside the country, they can connect to council. Thank you. Secretariat, please give me the total of the numbers and tell me whether we're correct or not. Quickly. Yeah. Councillors, the number of council members present to this council meeting is 190. It means the council meets the quorum, therefore we can proceed. Over to you, AG team. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I will proceed from where we had stopped. Essentially, my message on the slide was that all the work that we do is to enable oversight, accountability, and governance in order to build public confidence in government to deliver services efficiently, effectively, and economically. We also need to reflect deeper on how we can shift the way we deliver on our mandate in a manner that will bring the desired impact. It is therefore our strategic intent that we commit ourselves to making a more direct, consistent, and meaningful impact on improving the lives of ordinary South Africans by providing insights through influence and, where necessary, through enforcement. We achieve this through our recommendations, engagements, and the material irregularity process. The next slide is the accountability ecosystem. This shows you a network of stakeholders that have a mandate or responsibility, whether it's legislative, moral, to drive and deepen and insist on public sector accountability. The mission of shifting public sector culture through insight and influence is broad and cannot be achieved by the AGSA alone. Critical to our ability to successfully deliver of this mission within the scope of our mandate and resources and strategic planning horizon will be the extent to which we are able to influence the rest of the members of the broader accountability ecosystem in which AGSA has but a limited scope to fulfill their respective responsibilities and mandates in a coordinated, consistent, and effective manner. Failure by any part of the ecosystem to effectively play its role, particularly due to the unique role that each stakeholder has to play in this ecosystem, has a detrimental impact on the effectiveness of the ecosystem as a whole, and also tends to undermine the ability of other stakeholders to effectively play their roles, and also in that places an additional responsibility to the next party. So essentially, by the time as AGSA, when we report on material findings, it means that there has been multiple failures that have already occurred along the accountability value chain. What the accountability ecosystem will do if everybody plays their roles and responsibilities as required by the mandate, it will meaningfully contribute towards reversing the trend of persistent accountability failures and realizing the aspiration of making a stronger and more direct impact on the lived reality of our ordinary South Africans. Therefore, relying on the AGSA leveraging its capabilities towards generating insights and applying influence and stakeholder in a manner that shifts the culture of the public sector towards one of performance, accountability, transparency, and integrity. Where our messages have been disregarded, we use the provisions of our expanded mandate to enforce adherence to the relevant laws and regulations. We now move to the outcome slide. Thank you. Congratulations to the entities of DICC as well as DMTP for maintaining their unqualified with no material findings on predetermined objectives and compliance audits for the year ended 30 June 2022. Management and leadership as well as governance responded appropriately by providing the necessary assurance and oversight to ensure the credibility of financial statements and the annual performance report as well as compliance with legislation. However, going concern still remains an area of concern for DMTP, and management needs to ensure they continue to pay specific attention to this. The outcome for the EThekwini Metropolitan Municipality has remained stagnant when compared to prior years. The stagnation of the audit outcomes was due to instability in administrative leadership, which resulted in slow implementation of action plans by management and a stagnant internal control environment, which showed little improvement. The material...
Yes, who's that?
Honorable Speaker, it's Constantine. I've raised my hand long ago. They keep dropping my hand. I don't want to disturb the presenter. When I raise my hand, I expect you to recognize my hand, Speaker, so that I don't disrupt the presenter.
But Mwango, you raise your hand, you were entertained, your issue was addressed. I allowed the presenter to present, now you are raising your hand again.
Yes, there's a question raised by Mtetwa. And we need to get a feedback from you whether the live feed has been sorted out, because we can't deny the public this important information from AG. So if it's not sorted, there's an issue with that. I think I'm trying to raise a crucial point. You didn't give us feedback whether IT have managed to resolve the problem or not. That's what I'm asking, Speaker.
Yeah, but at the same time, you must listen when I respond to questions. I said, I'm with the team here. I've requested them to check that and give me a feedback, and then I will address council once I've been given that answer. Let's allow the AG to present. The speaker will respond once the AG has completed his presentation. Thank you. Proceed, AG.
But Speaker, what if public doesn't have access? We don't know whether right now they can listen or not. It's so easy. It's a yes or no. Is the fit there or not? That's all we're asking, Speaker.
My answer is the team is still verifying and checking so that they give me a correct answer. I don't want to mislead council. Sitting here, I don't have an answer. I requested them to check. Once they're back to me, I will advise council. I agree with you, but let's proceed. We'll respond in due course. AG?
Thank you. Okay, so when you look at the slide, you will see that in terms of the financial statements that were submitted to our officers for auditing was credible, as no material adjustments were made in the financial statements. So well done on that. The material findings that were reported in the performance report, as well as the...
Sorry, AG, there's a hand from Councillor Mavundla.
Speaker, good morning. Good morning, Speaker, and everyone. Just a quick one, Speaker. The right of the public doesn't only start when the Speaker gives them that right. Their rights start from the time we open the meeting, Speaker. If I'm wrong, I'll leave with it, but that's my understanding. Thank you, Speaker.
You are all correct, councillors. The members of the public have a right to access council meeting. Hence, in my opening remarks, I even acknowledge their presence. I even confirmed that they are confirming through live streaming. As I'm responding to now, I'm getting a response from the head administration, Ms. Adele, that we are now live. I can confirm, councillors, that we have now. I can confirm that we are connected because I got an answer from a senior official from head administration. Thank you. Approaches, AG, proceed.
Thank you very much. So the material findings that we are reporting could have been avoided had the city implemented prior year audit recommendation to strengthen its in-year monitoring and reporting processes to ensure that complete and accurate information is accessible and available to support performance reporting. There has been a lack of accountability evident in the inadequate consequence management steps taken, as well as the continuous high irregular expenditure at the municipality. There were amendments made to the annual report of the EThekwini in order to prevent material findings being reported. However, they could not make all the adjustments, thus resulting in material findings being reported. The number of material compliance findings at EThekwini has increased from 6 in the prior year to 11 in the current year. The action plans implemented were not adequate, as certain control initiatives over the areas of consequence management, effective procurement planning and compliance monitoring has not been fully implemented. This has resulted in repeat and new findings on compliance with key laws and regulations. Intervention is required relating to the SCM compliance as well as consequence management. The culture shift required by the city is to improve its position is to ensure that there is stable leadership environment that does not work in silos and sets the tone at the top in terms of timelessly implementing consequence management for transgressions identified. The next slides takes us into compliance with the key regulations. So as I mentioned, there were findings as far as the compliance with key legislation. And on slide 7, what we are seeing when we analyze that we had no findings of the quality of financial statements. As I said, the financial statements submitted needed no alterations or adjustments, material adjustments. As far as the prevention of unauthorized, irregular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditure, procurement and contract management, as well as consequence management, we have repeat findings from the prior period. There is a new area that we looked at in the current year, which is the environmental management, which was a new focus area from the office, and we are seeing findings for the first time as we focused on this particular legislation relating to environment management. When we unpacked the compliance findings, on the next slide, you will see for expenditure management, we have a new finding and a repeat finding. The new finding is that reasonable steps were not taken to ensure that the municipality implements and maintains an effective system of expenditure control, including procedures for the approval and authorization and payment of funds for expenditure related to the expanded public works program and presidential employment program as required by Section 52A of the MFMA. That's a new finding. The repeat finding was reasonable steps were not taken to prevent irregular expenditure of 1.5 billion, which is disclosed in note 52 to the financial statements, and this is required per Section 62(1)(d) of the MFMA. The majority of the irregular expenditure was a result of non-compliance with SCM regulations. As I mentioned, the next area in terms of environmental management was a new focus area, therefore the findings are all new. The Kingsburg, Spingo and Mpumalanga waste treatment works did not have valid operating licenses as required by Section 22(1)(b) of the National Water Act. The Northern Wastewater Treatment Works was not maintained to prevent malfunctioning infrastructure that could not operate as intended, and that was a requirement, Section 63(1)(a) of the MFMA. Consequence management is a repeat finding. We found that disciplinary proceedings were not instituted by council, where the report of independent investigators confirmed the financial misconduct by a senior manager as required by Disciplinary Regulation 5.6 for senior managers and Municipal Regulation 6.8 on financial misconduct procedures and criminal proceedings. We also found that appropriate action was not taken against officials of the municipality, where investigations proved financial misconduct as required by Section 171(4)(b) of the MFMA and Municipal Regulation 6.8 on financial misconduct procedures and criminal proceedings. As far as the compliance findings where procurement and contract management is concerned, we have seen a regression. There is one repeat finding and there is 4 new findings. The repeat finding is that some goods and services with the transaction value above 200,000 were procured without inviting competitive bids as required by SCM Regulation 19A. The new finding, some invitations to tender for procurement of commodities designated for local content and production did not stipulate the minimum threshold for local production and content as required by the 2017 Provincial Procurement Regulation 8.2. Some commodities designated for local content and production were procured from suppliers who did not submit a declaration on local production and content as required by the 2017 Provincial Procurement Regulation 8.5. Persons in the service of the municipality whose close family members had private or business interest in contracts awarded by the municipality failed to disclose such interest in contravention of the Code of Conduct for Councillors and the Code of Conduct for staff members issued in terms of the Municipal Systems Act, and persons in the service of the state of the municipality who had private or business interest in contracts awarded by the municipality failed to disclose such interest in contravention of the new Code of Conduct for Councillors and the Code of Conduct for staff members as in the MSA. So we now proceed to diagnose the irregular expenditure for the year. That is on slide 11. And what we are seeing that the irregular expenditure in the current year amounted to 1.5 billion, and that represents a 94% increase since the prior year. On analysis of the irregular expenditure, the following was noted: 21% related to irregular expenditure arising from CIU cases, 18% related to non-compliance with Section 116 of the MFMA, 17% was non-compliance with Section 32 of the MFMA, 2% related to non-compliance with Section 29 of the MFMA, and 33% related to non-compliance with SCM local content. 1% related to conflict of interest, that is awards to persons in services of state and persons employed in the municipality. 8% related to non-compliance with various SCM namely public tender processes not being adhered to, 3 quotations not being obtained, and adverts not being adequately advertised. The root causes for the increase in irregular expenditure is centered around controls not being implemented to ensure that appropriate procurement processes are adhered to, ineffective consequence management processes being implemented, and at times a lack of understanding of the SEM regulations, particularly the one related to local content. On slide 12, we are looking at the irregular expenditure, that is the balances of the irregular expenditure. The Metro has closed off with a balance of 4.8 billion of irregular expenditure. We are saying that the irregular expenditure is not being dealt with, because you will see that there's a 85.7% that has not been looked at, and 554 million has been written off. Nothing has been condoned, or there has been no monies recovered in terms of processes of recovery. So the action plans that have been implemented were not adequate in addressing the prior year irregular expenditure. Certain control initiatives over the areas of consequence management, effective procurement planning, as well as compliance monitoring over demand and contract management have not been fully and timelessly implemented. The disciplinary board was established in 21-22. However, the effectiveness of the board is of concerns where we have identified repeat consequence management findings. The next slide relates to the financial indicators. The financial indicators are on slide 14. The ratios that I'm bringing to the attention is the percentage that's being spent on repairs and maintenance. You see that it's 6.59%. The total capital expenditure as a percentage of total expenditure is 5.14%, and the water distribution losses is sitting at 56.2%. The city, like other municipalities in South Africa, is experiencing aging infrastructure challenges that threaten service delivery commitments to the residents. The situation is exacerbated by damaged and loss of infrastructure as a result of normal wear and tear, theft, vandalization, as well as the recent floods. The planned maintenance budget is still not informed by maintenance plans, and it's conducted based on allocated budget. The lack of proper maintenance plans to inform the actual budget needed to conduct the planned maintenance could result in further budget cuts and fewer planned maintenance done on aging infrastructure. This in turn will result in further deterioration of the assets and will increase costs in the future when the assets will have to be replaced. There is planned and budgeted routine maintenance. However, the funding is not adequate to address the needs of the city. These needs to be further increased by the recent flood damage. Our concern is whether the city will be able to secure funding for the level of repairs and maintenance required in relation to the amount of assets owned by the city that is used for service delivery. Water losses has increased to 56.2% over a 5-year period from 36.85 in the 20s.
Yakho lo khulumayo ngiyacela singaphazamisi sivale ama microphone. Thank you. Apologies, AG. Proceed.
Water losses has increased to 56.2% over a 5-year period, from 36.85% in the 2017-18 financial year. Similar to other municipalities in the country, the major contributor is aging infrastructure and illegal connections. A water conservation, water demand management 10-year strategic plan is being implemented with the
AG, apologies to disturb you. Councillor Viss, your hand is up.
Mr. Speaker, just a question. At the end of this presentation, will we be allowed the opportunity to make some input and comment?
I will address that as soon as AG is done with the presentation. Just allow her to.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Proceed, AG.
As I was saying, there is a plan, a 10-year strategic plan that is in place to deal with this. However, we are concerned because, in the last 5 years, there has been an increase in the water losses. Adequately reducing the water losses could result in the saving of current losses being utilized to fund other capital projects. Alternatively, the saving could be passed on to consumers in the form of a reduced tariff. The continuation of the current trends could be dire for consumers and the metro, with a likely increased tariff and consequently lower debtor recovery rates. Growing households in the metro considered against limited water resources gives rise to a possibility of water shedding in the near future. Additionally, the possible impact on water-intensive commercial clients and relative impact on the economy could be devastating. I will now turn to the performance information and the service delivery aspects that we have audited. The slide 16 is showing the finding that was in the audit report, where there was inadequate evidence that was maintained to support the performance indicators achievement in the performance reports. Regular monitoring of the performance was not effective. We found that management did not adequately monitor the maintenance of the call recording system and WhatsApp messaging platform, resulting in records of customer complaints, call outs not being available and or not adequately being backed up to support the reported achievement on performance information. So you will see that these were the ones that we could not, they sit in the create a quality living environment, and these are the 4 indicators that could not be verified due to the lack of supporting evidence. The next slide is looking at just within this objective of creating a quality living environment. We saw that there has been only a 46% achievement of planned targets in the selected objective. And then we also list in there some of the critical service delivery indicators on water, sanitation, as well as electricity, where we have not achieved our targets. Next slide is talking to the circular 88 indicators, which are tracked nationally. They should be included in the SDBIP with the reporting its targets and achievement. But we see for the ones that are listed in the slide, there is no planned target set. I think this calls for Council to hold management accountable and intensify discussions with National Treasury on how to treat these indicators. Last aspect I am going to deal with is relating to the material irregularities. As you know, this area has been faced for the last 4 years. In terms of the process, we find that we sit generally in 4 buckets, where the accounting officer is dealing with the MI. And in that case, what our expectation from the executive and oversight is to monitor the progress, as well as ensure or support the AO in addressing the MI and to improve the controls where there was controls lacking. We also, in the cases of where the MI is referred to a public body, or there's a recommendation included in the audit report, or remedial action has been issued, the executive must support the public body as well as the accounting officer in terms of the improvement of controls, where there is results coming in terms of how we must recover funds. We must be supportive in that as well, and oversight must ensure that there is an action plan, there is implementation and monitoring of these processes. So if we go specifically to the EThekwini Metro, in the next slide, there were 2 MIs that were identified in the current year. They were issued on the 13th and 14th of December, so we are awaiting a response from the accounting officer. The 2 MIs that were issued, you can move the slide to the MI. The 2 MIs where the presidential employment program payments were made to individuals that were employed in other government institutions and therefore do not qualify as beneficiaries. And the other one was for the EPWP, payments were made to ghost employees, deceased beneficiaries, and beneficiaries that were employed in other government institutions that do not qualify as beneficiary. So we have issued this and we are awaiting a response from the accounting officer. If we look at the material irregularities that have been issued in 2021, the first 2 was relating to the procurement of surgical face masks and at prices that were higher than recommended. We have received the responses from the accounting officer, and we are saying that adequate steps have not been taken with regard to the first two, and we are in the process as an audit team to determine what our next step in terms of our process is. On the third one, there were payments made to a supplier for services not rendered. The accounting officer is in agreement, but the MI is not being timeously responded to, so we are in the process of determining what is the next action. And the last one was the outstanding invoice that was not paid within 30 days. The MI was resolved. The accounting officer responded and was able to avoid the loss from being incurred, and the MI was resolved. In terms of the insights and the information that I have provided to you today, we've got to come up with recommendations to say what is it that one needs to do in order to move to more positive outcomes and thereby impacting on the lived realities of the citizens. In terms of the recommendations, we are saying that as a municipality that is forefront of service delivery, it is critical to have sound system of internal controls and effective governance structures in order to achieve the goals. Management should improve controls over demand management and planning to ensure that a competitive bidding process is followed. The accounting officer should implement and monitor effective consequence management structures within the municipality to ensure disciplinary proceedings are instituted timeously and officials are held accountable for their actions. The understanding and application of preventative controls needs to be entrenched in day-to-day activities by management through appropriate reviews, monitoring, corrective action, and credible reporting by officials. And proper record-keeping measures should be implemented to ensure that complete, relevant, and accurate information is accessible and available to support performance reporting as well as compliance with the applicable legislation. I thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Yeah, thank you very much, councillors. This presentation is for noting by council, but I will allow councillors to raise questions of clarities, but I won't allow a debate on this report because it's here for noting. But AG, delegation or team will take notes of those questions raised by councillors on the presentation. Let me note hands of those who want to raise questions. Thank you. Councillor Reddy, you are the first one. Councillor Mngango will be the next.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Councillor Anipen, you are the third. Councillor Ngumalo, you are number 4. Councillor Mavundla, you are number 5. Councillor Mtetwa, you are number 6. Councillor Isop, you are number 7. The mayor, you are the last, number 8. Thank you. In that order, councillors.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Firstly, I'd like
also. Councillor Pillay.
Yes, Councillor Pillay, you are noted. Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Firstly, I'd like to thank the Office of the AG for that frank presentation that was made to us here at EThekwini. I want to say at the outset that this report is most concerning. And if any councillor here does not share this concern, I'm afraid that you have either not heard the report or you don't understand the implications of this. Just to indicate that the AG has picked up new findings over and above the repeat findings. And on page 9 of the report, there is a detailed breakdown of these findings. Irregular expenditure has increased by billions of rands over the past 3 or 4 reporting terms, and something needs to be done. What is of extreme concern is the lack of the action by the accounting officer to deal with these irregular procedures that's currently underway here at EThekwini. The fact that the AG's office has picked up that 56.2% of water is being lost, and this is something I've been looking for a very long time, and we got the answer today.
Councillor Vis, let me warn you again. We are not debating this report. I've allowed you to ask AG questions of clarity.
Yes, I'm not debating. I'm not debating. I'm commenting. I think it's important. Let's understand that this municipality is on the brink of collapse right now, based on this report. If we don't treat this with the severity and seriousness it deserves, this is not politics. I think then we're missing the entire point here. My question to the AG. Let me get straight to the question. My question to the representative of the AG's office is this. Under these circumstances, any municipality with a report like this should be placed under administration. What would be your view of the role of this council in respect of consequence management in terms of the accounting officer? Can this accounting officer continue, bearing in mind that he has failed to perform simple remedial action on previous AG reports? That would be my question to you. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Councillor Areti. Number 2. Councillor Mwango.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Speaker, I think firstly, one must say this report is shocking and a disgrace, especially to all of us as councillors. We should be embarrassed. There's nothing really to be excited about as councillors. It's embarrassing to all of us. But I'm not sure whether AG will be able to respond to the last point raised by previous councillor. But I do believe that this council needs intervention. Maybe administrator might be the solution. But straight to the questions, I'm just concerned about the repeat findings. So that's why my question is framed around. Clearly, there are findings, AG, that you are saying the council has been repeatedly, obviously, getting its side of in terms of non-compliance. Now, the big question for me is, if this keep recurring, what exactly AG can do? I understand that the expectations for council to make decisions, but now the big question is, if we keep finding ourselves where we're repeating same issues of non-compliance, is there any measures or powers that AG or treasurer have over council in such cases? That's the first question. The other question, you also raised the issue around 317 million that arose from SAIU investigation. Can you clarify whether, does it mean there were irregular appointments to particular investigations, or there is other reasons why you believe this became irregular expenditure, why SIU had to incur irregular expenditure? Can we unpack how we get to that point? But also the last issue for me, AG, is this: what recommendations you might have for council? Because obviously, as councillors, all of us here, we obviously failed to hold management accountable. If they can only achieve 46%, that's a fail, actually, except that 33% in terms of pass rate South Africa. But in terms of the real pass rate, when you get below 50%, you failed. So this council has failed. Now, the big question is, how then, what can you recommend to council? But also, you talk about recommendation. You are saying the first point talks about the need for sound systems. Now, yes, you can say we must put sound systems in place, But this council once received the clean audit. Now, what exactly you can say have went wrong? Do you believe we moved away from best systems, or you believe it's political leadership, or you believe it's administrative problems? Because really, if you once received a clean audit, it means you were once able to get things right. Now, what has gone wrong right now? So can you maybe tell us your insight over that point? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Mngango, number 3.
Thank you, Chairperson. Let me also begin by expressing our thanks as the IFP to the AG's office for this very detailed and very direct report. Like the speakers before me have indicated, this report is a clear indictment against this council, particularly because of the number of recurring findings at the AG's office. And I think it's a worn-out song for us in this municipality to talk about consequence management and so forth, because I think every year when this report comes to us on an annual basis, we talk about consequence management, and really I think the powers that be that are responsible for consequence management ought to be changed. But be that as it may, I would like to, on behalf of our caucus, just pose one particular, maybe two particular questions, one which is partially covered by Councillor Reddy, about what type of remedial action can be recommended by the AG's office, especially where the areas of recurring findings are concerned, so that we don't find ourselves in a predicament where one day everybody just escapes from taking responsibility for their actions. The second thing is the AG made a particular comment on the EPW program. And it's interesting because later on in today's debate, there is an item on the agenda that speaks to the EPW program and extension of that contract for another 6 months, where the use of Section 28 of the Rules of Order was applied. And the mayor, in our very own and contestable opinion, took a unilateral decision to extend that contract for 6 months, causing an expense of 201 million rand to this council and essentially to the ratepayers of the municipality.
As you learn, as to your question.
Yeah. What I'd like to find out from the AG, is it appropriate, is it good fiscal management that while there are so many anomalies around the EPW program, ghost payments to individuals, lack of accountability in terms of who's employed, is it then good fiscal, is it not our fiducial responsibility to halt that program whilst those investigations are undergoing, as well as until we have the required outcomes and answers, instead of putting financial burden on the ratepayers of this municipality for the 201 million rand, when clearly there's a conflict of interest and political interference. And the AG particularly answered that, or the officials from the AG's office particularly answered that. Is it fiduciary? Is it sound fiscal management to invest further money into that program when there are existing anomalies, and especially when we don't have the money for it? And two, can you directly tell us what avenues are available to us as a municipality to hold those people who are responsible for consequence management accountable themselves? Thank you.
Number 4.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Let's make sure that we use the opportunity I'm giving you productively. Number 4.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The DLC wants to appreciate the presentation by the AG. It's a very informative presentation. It is absolutely a shocking presentation. There are matters that have been expressed in this report that really is very worrying. And as the other speakers have spoken, that we need to address these issues very seriously. I don't believe that we should go into administration so quickly as a city, because we have just appointed a city manager permanently. So I'm as a DLC, we believe that we can win this case and overcome these sort of findings. Mr. Speaker, There were matters that the AG mentioned in terms of no management targets. Now, the DLC is beginning to question the reports we get from managements, and I make particularly reference to the service delivery budget implementation plans we get in each committees, whereby these plans seem to be very effectively being completed, but yet the AG picked up that we do not have sufficient management targets. I would like to ask a question. Did the AG reconcile the statement of not achieving management targets to the SDBIP? And how did the AG arrive at that sort of conclusion? There are various other factors and matters in this report that is really questionable, the water loss and so forth. However, from the DLC, we're very cautious about the 1.5 billion.
Councillor, please move quicker to your question.
All right. In terms of the 1.5 billion non-compliance in terms of SCM procedures, what sort of non-compliance did we violate, and did we achieve value for money in terms of this irregular expenditure cost? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, thank you. Number 5, Councillor Mavundla. The name Chacha will follow as number 6.
Thank you, Baba Speaker. Speaker, my question to the AG's office are as follows. In the EThekwini Municipality, we've picked up that we have employees who doesn't clock in when they come to work in the morning, as well as when they knock off. Yet, they work a lot of overtime. Some of them work up to 230 hours overtime above what is prescribed. So I'm very interested to know if the AG has picked it up. Secondly, in EThekwini, we've got companies that are giving a service of security provision to the municipality that haven't been to tender, and their contract have been extended for many, many years. I'm interested to know if the AG office has picked that up. Furthermore, in EThekwini, we have a situation where half the fleet of especially water.
Councillor PG Mavundla.
Yes, Speaker.
Yeah, I'm sure that you do understand when I said we are going to ask questions based on the report presented. Now, listening to your questions, it seems as if you are not sure even yourself whether AG did include that in their presentation. I will request that we confine ourselves on the questions based on the presentation. Proceed, Councillor Mavundla.
Speaker, you are correct. I'm asking this question because we're hoping that the AG has got more of magnified glass to pick things up, like a 4 billion rand that is owed by the province to the municipality as to where the AG has picked this up. And that is my third question and the last one. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Councillor Mavundla. Nyambose.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Firstly, let us welcome this frank diagnosis of where we are from the AG's office. I think if you listen carefully to this report, Mr. Speaker, you would agree that it validates what some of us have been saying over the past couple of years. Having said that, Mr. Speaker, but I don't want you to call me to order. I just have a few questions to ask the AG. The AG spoke about ghost beneficiaries from EPWP and PEP, some of whom are employed by other state entities and some of whom are no longer alive. Are we then, as the AG, able to pin down as to who would have signed off on those payments? I'm asking this, Mr. Speaker, if I may qualify it, because I think this is the war that we've been trying to fight as the Democratic Alliance, but seemingly, numerically, it gets swept under the carpet. I think if we can't win this war here, it would be proper for us to take it even outside of this council to law enforcement agencies. So we want these reports to pin down to those people who sign off on these payments. The second part that I want to deal with is the non-revenue water and the so-called 10-year plan to turn things around. Has the AG seen that plan? Again, I'm asking this question because I know that my colleagues in the Finance Committee have been crying for this plan to be presented to them so that they are able to monitor if it is really a plan that is implementable. Has the AG had sight of that plan, or they were just told that there is a plan to turn things around? The third one is payment to suppliers with no work done for the municipality. Again, here my question would be the same as the first one. Are we then able to identify people who would have paid these invoices where no work was done? Because clearly one would expect that there should be a closeout report which then enables suppliers to be paid. Are we able to identify individuals that are responsible for such payment? I think the issue with repeat findings has been covered by some of the colleagues. Lastly, Chairperson, there's a program here, you pardon me if it was raised by the AG, I might have missed that, called Moja Cruz in this municipality. Has the AG been able to audit payments that are paid to those beneficiaries? If they have, what were the findings? Because unfortunately I didn't get that. I'm asking this because these are the programs that are used to milk this municipality by unscrupulous individuals who we as a Democratic Alliance would want to lay charges, criminal charges against. But those are the questions that I have for now until such time that you open this at the right platform and at the right time for proper debating. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Number 6. Number 7, I'm sorry. Then there is a hand that I didn't see, Babu Mia. Then lastly would be Bob Mayor. Number 7.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, the ACDP welcomes the report with tremendous concern. I think it is a time where we need to take leadership of this municipality and we need to ensure that we stop the rot. Obviously, the Auditor General's report had revealed many findings from higher levels of corruption to mass implications of corruption by councillors and officials. Now, my question, obviously there's much findings. We'll go into the debating part in a later stage, but I'm aware that the Auditor General has a sole prosecuting authority. Speaker, I'm aware that they can investigate allegations about possible breaches of the Act and decide whether to prosecute those people that are warranted. Now, obviously, there is much findings within EThekwini, both officials and councillors and some of the family members that have been red flagged in terms of being benefactors from tenders and procurements. Now, my question to the Auditor General, will they continue to investigate to the point where they will even consider prosecution because there is no political will over the years to prosecute those that have been found guilty? Thank you. Thank you.
Councillor Mayor, then we proceed. Mayor?
Thank you very much. You, the mayor, acting city manager, fellow councillors, and the AG. Us as the economic freedom fighters, we welcome the report, even though the report is not saying good things about us. But we're also grateful that there is some attempts to execute consequence management. However, that's not in. So the main point that I want to iterate in the report is the issue of infrastructure, which is caused by the poor budgeting to the infrastructure. Our CFOs not really referring to this one, even in the one before. There is this tendency that they lead towards infrastructure maintenance. It's even worse when we're faced by disaster in KZN, in particular in EThekwini. So now we are faced with a problem which is recurring. It's a poor infrastructure which is caused by low budgeting, plus the infrastructure that was aging and the one that was caused by the disaster. So we're in a very dire situation. Now, the question is, why does the city, in as far as finance is concerned, why they don't budget the exact amount as per the requirements of AG and Municipalities Act to the infrastructure sector? Because that is a problem that we're faced with it now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Greetings to Amakosi Asendlingulu, Auditor General's Office, Namakhansela wonke. Let me join colleagues to welcome the report. Indeed, it presents challenges, but I also want to support the statement made by Councillor Mia that if you are still under the category of unqualified opinion, it doesn't mean that it's a disclaimer. A disclaimer is where we are unable to provide evidence, portfolio of evidence on things, and we can't report on the misstatements and many things. But I just want to pose a question to Auditor General. Maybe what has been the performance of the city in the past 2 financial years? Whether where we seated on the very same opinion, and what are the features that make the city or a municipality to remain in unqualified audit opinion. But we do accept that there are still leakages and weaknesses in the system that needs to be filled. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Yeah, thank you very much. AG Delegate Team, may you please respond to the questions?
Point of order. Point of order, Speaker.
Right.
I'm rising on rule number 8, attendance of councillors in the meeting. I don't know who was providing numbers for IFP, because I'm seeing Councillor Nkosi walking down the Smith Street wearing his navy suit and carrying his briefcase. It says here, Councillor must punctually attend and remain in the meeting. Now we have been given numbers of people that are not in the meeting. I submit, Speaker.
Yeah, thank you. We have not yet given whips of political parties to update their numbers. Therefore, it would be wrong for us to conclude that if you see someone next where you are, then maybe he is doing something wrong against the rules, because we agreed earlier that numbers will be confirmed, but in the middle of the council meeting, we'll also give political parties an opportunity to update or give us the latest numbers in terms of their attendance. Thank you. AG, proceed.
Thank you so much. Thank you to all the councillors for the questions. I will respond to the audit-related questions in the essence of time, and apologies up front if I have not covered all of you, but I'm sure you can remind me. The first question related to matters of administration and so forth. I mean, our responsibility as the Auditor General is to audit, to table our report, and that's a core mandate of a different institution altogether in terms of responsibility, in terms of assessing when one meets a criteria for such action and so forth. The repeat findings, there was a question about why are we having these repeat findings, and the repeat findings I've indicated you whilst presenting, it was because of the instability in the administration. There was slow implementation of action plans. So you have an action plan at the end of each audit cycle to say, you know, what is it that I'm going to do and who needs to do it and by when they need to do it in order to ensure that we resolve the findings. That in itself says when you have this action plan, one needs to hold people accountable. One needs to hold individuals responsible to ensure that indeed that these findings, that these action plans are taken seriously and are being resolved. The whole idea about it is that when you have control weaknesses is to build on those controls, improve on those controls, and that ultimately will ensure that you have a strong control environment. There was a very interesting question that was asked about a recommendation for councillors. At this stage, if I have to give one recommendation, what that silver bullet recommendation will be. So I'm taking one that I think that will be very significant and make a significant difference is the slide that I dealt with the escalating irregular expenditure. I really believe that, one would have to deal with it. And when you deal with this irregular expenditure, it means that you are going to deal with the transgressions, the non-compliances. It means that the people that are responsible for these transgressions also get dealt with in the process, and the internal controls improve such that we are moving to a phase where we are dealing with it, we are preventing and detecting. And I think this will be more, lead us to a more sustainable outcomes, because that will have a direct shift on the culture to say that, wrongdoings, transgressions, they will not be tolerated in the environment, and that we take lead in dealing with this escalating and ballooning irregular expenditure. There was a question about the clarity on the CIIU. So there are investigations that are performed by the CIIU. In their investigations, they conclude that there is irregular expenditure. It could relate to a number of non-compliance with SCM regulations, but it's through their processes they detect this irregular expenditure and thereby disclose it accordingly, and then it goes into the chain to say, now what do we do to deal with this irregular expenditure? There was a lot of questions asked about the EPWP, and for me, I'm going to respond to it in terms of how you would respond to any grant management control. And essentially, it's got to do with controls. There must be an objective that you're wanting to achieve. And when you have such, it means that the controls need to be placed, the monitoring processes need to be placed to ensure that we are achieving what we meant or what our desire was to achieve out of this. In terms of the material irregularity that was issued, it is saying that, there was a question later on, which I will address now. We've given you a list of people that should have not qualified. And that's the extent. The question was, what have you done? We would give you that list. We will not make a conclusion without support, evidence for such a matter. Now it is in your hands as the accounting officer to say, what am I going to do with this? And from the councillors is to support the accounting officer to ensure that actions are taken place and the controls are indeed strengthened to ensure that whatever the purpose for this particular grants were are being utilized accordingly. The section, the Circular 88, the targets have been, these are national targets that have been included. So what we are saying that there is no targets or indicators for these specific items. And what we're really saying is that we need to, so it's just on these particular ones, the Circular 88, that we probably need more attention and focus on. There was a question that was asked, as far as the irregular expenditure, did we pick up where goods and services was not received? We did not see any evidence where goods and services was not received. There was a number of questions asked in overtime, security, expenditure, and really individual expenditure items. So I have just highlighted today in my presentation all the material findings that have affected the audit report, that has affected service delivery, has affected compliance. And essentially, there is a management report where all of these areas have been audited, that has been presented to management, which gives birth to the action plan in terms of what is it that we're going to do to improve the controls in these various areas. And that's where you will find that, management are now have been given the opportunity where there are weaknesses, let's just say, for instance, in the overtime, they will be in a position to know what are the control deficiencies and what is it they can do to improve on those controls. So the MI, I responded with when I spoke about the EPWP as far as the findings. So have we provided the information? Yes. When we do provide information, when they are the ghost employees or employees that so forth. The question regarding the powers of the AG and what do we do? So the irregular expenditure arises from the normal regularity audit. And when our expanded power is saying to us that when you see a material non-compliance or when you see substantial harm or breach of fiduciary duties, what is there a financial loss attached to it? Is there harm attached to it? And then our expanded powers come into play. So you will see that I took you through the slides where there were 2 new MIs that loss was coming through. Similarly with the 4 that was issued in prior periods, you can see that these non-compliance led to financial loss and there can be action taken in terms of recoveries as well as improvement of the control environment. The question regarding infrastructure and the budget thereof, I think the question is to management to say, are you providing adequate budget for repairs and maintenance? Is your budget adequate as far as infrastructure development and so forth? So I will leave that to them. Last question from the Honourable Mayor was to give context based on the discussions thus far. The opinion is unqualified with findings. It is the same opinion as was issued last year. The financials unqualified, that was where I mentioned that there was no material adjustments made to the annual financial statements. The set of financial statements that was sent to our office was credible. There are findings in the predetermined objectives that was for the targets that we did not get sufficient supporting evidence for, and the compliance findings are the same as last year, but however there has been increase from I think it was 6 to 11 compliance findings in terms of just giving context into the audit opinion. The audit opinion is unqualified audit opinion with matters raised on with other findings, namely on the audit of predetermined objectives as well as compliance. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for your responses. In concluding this session, councillors, there are a few points I want to raise on behalf of council and the people of EThekwini.
Speaker, order, Speaker.
Thank you very
much.
Point
of order, Speaker. Speaker, point of order.
What was that?
Councillor Said.
Right.
Speaker, I just want to firstly ask if this council meeting has already started.
Councillor Said, yes, the council meeting has started.
So, Speaker, I then draw your attention to the rules of order in terms of Section 9, leave of absence, as well as the guidelines regulating virtual meetings, which was approved in Council 29th of May 2020, wherein it states clearly, if a councillor is unable to attend a meeting for which notice has been given, is unable to remain in attendance at a meeting, will arrive after the stipulated commencement time of a meeting. Speaker, I'd like to check if all of those leave of absences are in your hand or not, Speaker. If not, then my recommendation, Speaker, is that you check the attendance of everyone in council at the moment, and not by the whoops of parties, but by your technical support and secretariat as per the rules, and you firm that up and you close anyone from attending this meeting or leaving this meeting moving forward. Thank you, Speaker.
Yeah, thank you very much, Councillor Said. Yes, in our agenda, soon after the Speaker have made the announcement, then the acting city manager will present the leaves of absence that have been recorded. Yes, he's sitting next to me. When we come to that item, we are going to deal with it. Let's allow the Speaker to conclude the item on the presentation of AG, then you proceed with the meeting. You'll get that information, Councillor Said. Councillors, in thanking the AG for their report, yes, the report contained a number of areas where council is concerned, and the people of EThekwini, of which they share the very same concern. For council to be functional, it relied on its council committees to play the political oversight role to their relevant departments or units, including the executive committee. I want to appeal to all councillors who serve in various committees to make sure that you work very hard with your TCMs, heads of units, and senior officials in making sure that we improve to the situation we are faced with in this financial year, so that as we move on in our term, we minimize or reduce report of this nature. This is a request directed to all council committees, including the executive committee, working with the city manager and all TCMs in making sure that proper actions are taken where AG has recommended that we have to take action, where correcting measures have to be implemented. I appeal on behalf of the people of EThekwini that we respond accordingly so that there's improvement moving forward. Thank you very much, councillors. Thank you to the delegation from AG. You are therefore excused so that we proceed with our meeting. What will happen now, councillors? We will just move straight to the acting city manager so that he will present the leave of absence. Then after that, we are going to get the official announcement and the speaker's report. Then we deal with other items after that. Over to you, Dr. Mnguni.
Thank you, Babu Speaker. I've got one application for leave from Councillor MS Nkosi from the IFP. The application is for today based on personal commitments. Thank you very much. I also have the application from City Manager who is away on business. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mnguni. Those are the leave of absence councillors we have received. Are all the leave of absent councillors accepted?
Point of order, Chairperson.
Speaker, it's Councillor Ngumalo here.
Yes, there's Councillor Anipen first, then Councillor Ngumalo. Anipen?
Yeah, Chairperson, I note the leave of absence given by the acting city manager in relation to the city manager. May I ask, he said that he's away on business. Is it personal business, municipal business? Because the leave of absence form is very specific. Please, may we have that information?
No. I won't allow you, the city manager, to respond to that. Ngumalo?
Chairperson, point of order.
No. Ngumalo?
You can't disallow
much,
point of order, Chairperson.
I also want to register or to check that the apology of Whip Councillor Gumede, he has submitted the apology. So I didn't hear acting manager A phone. Thank you.
It means we don't have the leave of absence with us here. If we have received it, we would have read it, Councillor. Councillors, those are the leave
Point of order, Speaker.
That we have.
Point of order, Speaker.
Yes.
Point of order, Speaker.
Point of order, Speaker. Right.
I had my hand raised up.
Point of order, Speaker. Speaker, in terms of the guidelines of virtual meeting.
Wait for me to note your hands. Yes, Councillor, Said.
Speaker, in terms of the guidelines.
No, Said, wait.
All right.
Councillor Said, number one, Anipen, number two, Councillor Mnyango, number 3. In that order.
Speaker, we appreciate the leave of absence from the IFP councillor, but with respect, Speaker, in terms of the guidelines for virtual meetings, under section 9.3, a councillor will be deemed absent without leave from virtual meetings concerned, where an application of leave of absence has not been granted, or where they fail to attend a virtual meeting, failed to remain in attendance at a virtual meeting, as well as will arrive after the stipulated commencement time of the meeting. Now, Speaker, it affects and impacts the register that you have. Are you going to close this meeting in terms of anyone that comes in because you don't have their leave of absences? Or are you going to move forward and allow councillors to come in without leave of absences as and when they deem fit? Thank you, Speaker.
What's going to happen, we are going to give political parties a chance to confirm their numbers, because at the beginning of our meeting, we made a commitment that as soon as numbers changes or there are some changes in your numbers, you will inform council. But because at the beginning of the meeting was correcting where to start the meeting. But political parties will give us those updates in due course. It means we are going to give councillors whip of parties to give us their latest numbers in terms of the attendance as the commitment we've made at the beginning of the meeting.
Speaker, orders.
Councillor.
Order, Speaker.
No. Councillor. What is it?
Speaker.
Yeah. Chairperson.
Anapen.
Yeah, Chairperson, I want to revisit my comment from earlier. In the last council meeting, we had a no-show from the city manager. In this meeting, we're getting a very ambiguous, frivolous notification for his leave of absence. It's just a simple request. The leave of absence form requires that is very specific in terms of leave of absence. The acting city manager said that he's away on business. We would just like to know whether it is municipal business or personal business.
It's a municipal business. Mwango?
Point of order, Mr. Speaker. Point of order.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, I'm open to correction from the legal team, but my understanding of the applications for leave is that it is put to the council, and the council will decide whether these applications are accepted or not. The council can decide not to accept an application. I think the point raised by Councillor is perfectly in order.
No.
We want to know what is the reason. The municipal ban. No, I'm not out of order. Please, let's not start off on a bad note.
Listen. We have not yet reached the stage where we ask council whether the leave of absence are accepted or not. I'm still taking hands that were raised while we are receiving those leave of absence. Councillor Mwango, then after that we are going to ask council whether leaves are accepted or not. We are going there, Councillor Vice. Councillor Mwango.
Speaker, point of order, Speaker.
No, thank you.
Speaker.
Let's allow Mwango to make his comment.
Speaker, point of order.
Let's allow Mwango first, because I gave you sufficient time to speak, Mwango.
Yeah, thank you, Honourable Speaker. I think I raised my point of order when the councillor raised a question on the city manager. And I think the councillor have actually managed to articulate very well the concern that there is a need for clarity on a background that the last council meeting was actually cancelled. A part of it, beside the ANC and EFF issue, there was the issue of city manager, who decided not to attend the meeting without giving us a reason. Now, as councillors, city manager account to council. Now, when someone as a councillor asks such a question, Speaker, that question is valid, and I don't think we can just dispute by saying acting city manager can answer the question. We have a right as councillors to ask those questions to you, Honourable Speaker, and I think you must provide the reasons so that when we get to a point to accept or not to accept the leaves, at least we have a background. So I'm trying to say, Speaker, we have a right to question, we have a right to clarity, and you must provide clarity on those particular questions.
Yeah, thank you very much, Councillor Mwango, I've not denied you, councillors, an opportunity to ask questions and to know what happened, but where we were at the stage where we were asking whether the leaves of absence are supported. Then there was a question on whether we have to clarify whether city manager, his leave is a private or business. I will request His Worship the Mayor to respond to that question, because if he goes outside the country, he does not report to the Speaker of Council, but a report direct to the Mayor. His Worship, can you please answer the question?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. As the supervisor of the city manager, I'm aware and I've approved.
Point of order, Speaker.
Yes, Mtetwa.
My point of order, Speaker, is that the mayor is the chairperson of the executive committee. You are the presiding officer in this meeting. It is not for the mayor to tell us what is happening with the city manager. It is for you as the presiding officer to say you have received a leave of absence. These are the reasons why the city manager is not here. So don't involve the mayor on something that he has no jurisdiction on. If you have explained why the city manager is not here, the mayor's got no role to play there. Thank you, Chair.
The mayor has a role to play. The Speaker of Council chair council meeting. If the city manager can't be present in the meeting, will submit a leave of absence, and he has submitted to the Speaker. Then in the leave of absence, there is a reason that he's out of the country because of council business. Now, I think for me as a Speaker, those responses are sufficient. But in terms of the details, the mayor approved the leave of the city manager, not the Speaker. I will therefore request that we allow the mayor to share light or more detailed information that the Speaker does not have with regard to the city manager's leave of absence. Then after that, I will request our head, Legal Njomane, to come in and assist us whether our interpretation or our understanding is wrong, then we'll be able to correct us. His Worship, then Njomane will come after.
Speaker,
thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Point of order, Speaker.
If I can respond.
Speaker, point of order, Speaker.
Yes.
Speaker, you said that I should come in after Councillor Mwango on my point of order. I requested of you initially when I started speaking, and I asked you whether this council meeting has started or not. And you agreed.
No, I
correct.
To that.
Correct.
To that.
Then I referred you to the rules of 9.3 in terms of leave of absence. Now I further refer you to the rules of 9.4. The Speaker or Chairperson must confirm attendance of councillors at the beginning of the virtual meeting and prior to each adjournment.
Councillor said they're wasting our time. It looked like
no,
you were not
no,
part
Speaker.
of the meeting.
No, Speaker.
No.
This is not my role, Speaker.
No. Stop there. Because I have responded to the question and numbers were confirmed after Councillor Mwango raised the matter. Let's not delay council's
but Speaker,
time.
you are saying waiting for whips when it is you that is supposed to confirm it.
Listen, Seth. Listen.
No, Speaker.
But Mayor, please respond. Then Njomane will come.
Thank you,
Speaker, you
Honorable
acknowledge
Speaker.
my hand, but you have
Let's allow
ACDP councillor.
Let's allow the mayor to respond. Mayor.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Let me remind this council that part of the powers that you have delegated to me as a mayor and the Structures Act is that I must become a supervisor of the city manager. So to execute that responsibility, the city manager is out of the country on council business. He's part of the national delegation, which is led by Professor Ramahupa from the Presidential Infrastructure Coordinating Structure. And they are in Saudi Arabia. And whilst they were preparing to go to Saudi Arabia last week, the city manager did not abscond to the council meeting, but he was finalizing his visa but he put a notice to his colleagues that once the meeting starts, they must give him an indication so that he can rush to the meeting and continue with his responsibilities. So he has not absconded. He has been reporting to me as his close supervisor, and I'm certain that he's executing his responsibilities outside the country. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Head Legal, Jomane.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I just want to bring to the attention of the Council that the approval of AMA leave of absences is applicable to the members of Council. The absence of the city manager is not subject to the approval of the Council, is subject to his conditions of employment, and it has to be approved by his supervisor as an administrator. But it's only the councillors that should seek a leave of absence from the council, and the council only approves a leave of absence in relation to the councillors. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarity. There are some hands that are up. Councillor Isop, Councillor Bekte, and Councillor Anipen. Thank you, Jomane, for that clarification.
Yeah. My hand is up, Speaker. My hand is up, Speaker. Councillor Mungango.
No. We have only recognized these three hands.
No, it's up. It's up. That's what I'm saying. It's up.
Councillor,
it's been up. No, Honourable Speaker, my hand has been up. Can you recognize my hand also?
Let's allow Isop to speak. Isop.
No. You can't delay the process. You can't delay the process. Please, councillors.
Councillor Isop, we are on the floor.
Speaker, at our previous special council meeting, you assured the House that you were going to go and do an investigation and an inquiry on the matter of leave of absence because many councillors were not present and there were no leave of absence. Once again, we are challenged with leave of absence forms and there has been no report from your office. Obviously, the AG has highlighted the importance of delayed investigations and inquiries and implementations. Please, can you let us know when would we have that report in terms of why most councillors or the vast majority of councillors were not present at the previous council meeting, and what plan of action are you considering to take to the fact that there were no leave of absence forms? Thank you.
Yes, the report will be ready on Friday, on the 3rd of February at 2 o'clock, when the cancelled meeting on the 26th will be reconvened according to the rules. Friday this week on the 3rd, ICC, 2 o'clock. Councillor Bekte.
No, I've dropped my hand. Thank you. Answered, Speaker. Covered.
Thank you. Councillor Anipen.
Yeah, Chair, thank you. Appreciate the response given by the Mayor and a legal response as well. Be that as it may, we found ourselves in a predicament at the last council meeting, despite the response given by the Mayor, where the city manager was not present. And whether he had asked his staff to let him know when the meeting has started or not is completely irrelevant. The fact is that he was not there, and he made no attempt to have anybody replace him. Secondly, the leave of absence for the city manager was read out by the deputy city manager acting in his place today. Simple request we made was to ask the DCM, who was acting in the place of the city manager, to tell us, what does the leave of absence say? There is absolutely no need to go and get his supervisor and anybody else. This type of frivolous avoiding. No, Chairperson, please don't stifle us in this council.
We are wasting the time of council. No. Listen.
They are wasting our time. These people.
Anipen, you can't argue. You can't argue with the
time of this council and 550,000 rand of ratepayers' money in the last
council. They're coming with their agenda here
to be emotional.
In the last council meeting. Don't talk to us about wasting people's time.
Listen.
No. You are wasting our
You're
time
the
here.
architects. You and the ANC are the architects of wasting
you are
ratepayers'
wrong.
money and council time in this.
No, you are wrong.
No, but there's
not
only
wrong.
one speaker in
I'm
this
not
house.
wrong.
There's only
I'm
one
not wrong.
speaker.
I
They
am
mustn't
correct.
abuse. They
It's
mustn't
about
abuse
time.
Jonathan. There's only one speaker
I'm
who
going
has the
to-
right
I'm
to
going
call in
to- I'm
order
going
to
to-
speak to a member.
I'm going to switch off your mics because you are disturbing council.
That is what you do as a speaker, as the ANC. You stifle debate here when the truth is spoken. The ratepayer.
But even if you speak the truth, you must be respectful of the council members. When you are called to order, you must listen because we are sitting council. And Councillor Madlala, your hand was up after Anipen.
No, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I think it's about time the Speaker closes this debate because I don't understand where we are going with it. I think we are wasting time because last week there was no meeting. The meeting could not start. Now, I don't understand how do you know whether the person is here or not there when the meeting has not started. Because at the meeting started, then we're then going to get to a point where you are reading the apologies, the application for leave of absence. Then who knows whether you are going to get a leave of absence application from the city manager saying he is no longer going to attend the meeting and in his place someone else is acting. Because the meeting could not start, then you cannot jump the gun and say whether it was or it was not there. So I think we are just wasting our time and the time of the taxpayers who are paying us to sit here and debate politics. We can move on with the agendas. Honorable Speaker, I think we were dealing with the leave of absence and the confirmation of the numbers. What we had said earlier is that some councillors are struggling to join. I think some have joined. I think we need to confirm the numbers to deal with the issue that was raised by one of the councillors to say, well, once you confirm numbers in the meeting and I think we need to deal with that and then proceed with the agenda of the meeting. We have a long day, Honourable Speaker. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Councillors, the leave of absence has been presented to council. Are those leave councillors accepted?
Speaker,
who's that?
Yeah, we accept the leave of absence for other councillors. We accept the leave.
Point of order, Speaker.
My hand is up, Speaker.
There's a point of order. Who are those hands?
Mwango.
And Ngumal.
Mwango and who?
And Ngumal.
Okay, it's Councillor Mwango. It's Councillor Kuala. It's Councillor Kuala. And who?
Nomnika to speak.
And Reti.
Nomnika to speak.
Councillor Mwango. Then Mnika to the last. And
thank you.
In that order?
Yeah, thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker. Yeah, Honourable Speaker, we thank the Mayor for responding on this question. But I think it's just raising a concern, and I think the Mayor have to clarify this point. He says the city manager wanted to know or be told when the meeting starts. Now, the agenda says the meeting started at 10. I'm not sure who must tell city manager the meeting is supposed to start. Because the time it says 10 o'clock.
Can I address you, Cousin Mwango? I've already indicated when I was responding to a question related to the cancelled meeting that was on the 26th. I said I was requested to do some work in terms of investigating and understanding what happened. Then I said such reports from the Speaker will be presented to Council on Friday, the 3rd at 2 o'clock ICC. It is unfair for council members to delay this council to raise issues that the Speaker has already confirmed that such reports will be presented on Friday at 2, as per the request of those councillors who were in that council meeting. Therefore, to continuously raise this issue, I think councillors are being unfair to council. And I won't take more hands who will speak on the issue of what happened in the council meeting last week. Thank you.
Okay, I accept, Speaker. I will wait. No, it's fine. I will accept your response.
Thank you. Second Speaker.
No, thank you very much, Speaker. Ngiyabonga. Kodwa ke Speaker, ngicabanga ukuthi umuntu akakudlulise sihlalo iwukuthi ukhansela uMadlala kulokho akushoyo okuwukuthi uthi umhlangano awuzange uzuhlale last week ukubonakala ukuthi ngoba noma futhi ngoba namakhona. Ngicabanga ukuthi lokho Speaker.
No, let's not discuss the council meeting that was cancelled last week, particularly the issue of the attendance. Let's not go there. That matter, Speaker will respond in details on Friday. Next speaker. Next. Babkwala. Councillor Kwala. Yes, Councillor Vies, you are the last on the people who raise their hand. Then we proceed. Councillor Reddy. Councillor Reddy. Oh.